Greetings, my fellow freedom-loving sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to the LLP Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the wild, wonderful Mountain State, and today's date is Wednesday, September 30th, 2020. So let us begin. Hopefully everyone is doing well. Yeah, I'm just mellowed out right now. Nice and cool where I'm at. The fall. Haven't been a while, but I like it. Hopefully everyone's, like I said, hopefully everyone's doing good. Observe the debates. For more like a cluster. Amok Productions, to be exact. And you know how the mainstream garbage media wants to blame one man for it. They all want to go after President Trump. Like him or not, this was absolutely unprofessional, ludicrous, juvenile, sabotaged. Joe Biden should have a song in that debate. Come on, man. Hold my hand. I need a Chris Wallace. Hold my hand. I need someone to think for me. You know, this is one of those areas. That's how you look at it. Dirty, blasphemous, unprofessional, trendy. Her conformity, 101. I guess it really gets a big kick out of me when they try to blame the riots, Charlottesville, when he said both sides were involved. And of course, they also talk about white supremacy only. One-dimensional. Typical arrogant rhetoric. When it comes to tyrannical supremacy, it don't count. But white supremacy is the only thing. Please. Meek and unmerited. I didn't have to lose sleep over it, get over strenuous, because not surprised. I always like to suggest all my colleagues out there, when you vote for president, it mainly endorses the Electoral College, not directly to them or any other candidate. There's like 6 candidates on presidential candidate tickets in Florida. Yeah, according to ballots. So, just do a little homework. That'd be your best bet. Look at their track record. Hell with the mainstream media, it says, regardless of paradigm. And I noticed, too, a lot of people in that facility that happened in Salt Lake City was not impressed. A little cliche. But, like I said, it's been going on for a very long time. Ask the same have people address the same topics that's been used 30 years ago. When it comes to the riots and even Charlottesville, you got to focus on your state and local governments too. What happened at Charlottesville was socially engineered. What's his name? Kessler, his name is John Kessler or Jason Kessler? Jay Kessler, was a scapegoat. He had a right to be there. They tried to breach his permit, which has already been signed. And they violated it again by having the police stand down. Yeah. How come you don't talk about that? I do. And many people in the media, even the LA Times, for an example, knew it as well. It was designed to fail. And both sides were attacking the press. How come you didn't talk about that? But they all point the finger at the president. It's called witch hunting. And it's for wussies and cowards. And Chris Wallace is on that category as well. And of course, Joe Blow Biden, New World Order butt boy. And, of course, we all know Donald Trump is sugar daddy. Is Sheldon Adelson. Just look at this, folks. His upcoming debates, don't be surprised. Don't feel the hype. Just observe responsibly and look what they achieved. Donald Trump was right about one thing. 47 years, 40 plus years of Joe Biden was tyrannical. TeknoAXE #1 fan. God bless the Patriot Act. Yeah, he was up there. He supported it too. Invasion of Iraq and all that. Yeah, he's another globalist hack. And I know they add the Patriot Act to one of the bills. Of course, Trump signed it. That was careless. And I'm not too pleased about that either. Well, enough of my rant about that. But focus on your state, local government, your House of Representatives. U.S. House of Representatives. They need to be called out as well. They've done things illegal, consistently. Those are the ones you got to go after. They're the ones that have the power to control revenue. And they're just pissing it all away. They're responsible for that $26 trillion debt the United States own, which is have to pay back to the central banks, which they're a legal institution anyway. Yeah. U.S. House of Representatives, regardless of party, your faction ingenuity is invalid around me and many others. Well, enough of my aggression. Just decided to take a couple things here. And by the way, the intro music was by TeknoAXE. John 117, that's the name of the composition. I'll leave that on air. Hey, give him some donations, give him some love. That's some cool stuff. So, this one came out from the American Free Press. It looks like they actually have it released to the public. I'll talk a couple here. But, this here, Democratic Party platform. Let's see what these folks have to say. This is from the American Free Press staff, so we all know it's multiple here. The 2020 Democratic Party platform was approved at a virtual convention by party delegates via remote vote on August 18th. AFP reviewed the Democratic platform in detail, particularly as compared with the priorities put forth by President Donald Trump's campaign team in his second-term agenda, which was accepted by the Republican Party alongside the 2016 platform in Leo of preparing a new platform for 2020 and reviewed for American Free Press issue 3637 by John Friend. So, folks, check it out. To briefly summarize the agenda, relatively vague priorities which were expanded upon the president's nomination acceptance speech, including creating jobs, eradicating COVID-19, ending U.S. reliance on China, improving healthcare and education, draining the swamp, defending law enforcement, and bringing violent extremist groups like Antifa to justice, ending illegal immigration and protecting American workers, expanding innovation, putting America first in foreign policy matters, and defending American values, including affirming the Constitution, within the courts, protecting unborn life, defending freedoms of religion, and supporting Second Amendment rights. How about the Bill of Rights culture? That would be a better thing. Why does a party platform even matter? Progressive news site Vox.com addressed this question in a 2016 article saying, while party platforms don't have the force of law, it's useful to have sense of what goal we can expect representatives from elected parties for once in office. Okay, I'll move my chair a little bit. So sorry about that. But those elected actually vote in the line with the ideas. In 25 years, both Democratic and Republican lawmakers in Congress voted in accordance with their platforms 82% of the time. Associate Professor Lee Payne at Stephen F. Austin State University told Vox, so the platform is significant because it is Democrats' most concrete statement as a party of what they stand for. It shouldn't be taken literally, but it should be taken seriously. As much of the 2020 platform is the most progressive document to come out as a major national party in U.S. history, it's far from clear if there's anything close to what a party Biden presidency would achieve or even push for. The platform isn't written to take into account practical constraints, legislative trade-offs, or the hard-nosed political calculations that every president has to make. It exists in the world of ideals. It is not written as legislation. Additionally, since this is a public-facing document, it's Democrats' attempt to make their agenda sound appealing. They'll emphasize the stuff they think is popular. Platform reveals deep divisions in party. Certainly, the platform includes a few policy positions which nearly all Americans would agree, but the difference between the two parties are clearly extensive. Even among Democrats reports New York Times, the platform has reinforced divisions among the party's moderates and its liberal wing, which has expressed disappointment that official Democratic agenda does not support Medicare for all. Some refuse to vote for the platform as a form of protest. In analyzing what the Democratic Party platform actually says, the Times points out is a largely symbolic document that broadly outlines the party's agenda and covers a sweeping set of policies on key issues, including healthcare, climate change, and the economy. It does not contain specific legislation or binding commitments taken as a whole. However, it provides a broad look at the party's agenda and the principles and values that Democrat, including former Vice President Joseph Biden Jr., embrace. Attempting to bridge this vast intra-party divide, the platform committee took into consideration 110 pages of policy recommendations developed by the Biden-Sanders Unity Task Force that focus on climate change, criminal justice reform, the economy, education, healthcare, and immigration. Political.com notes. Of course, you know how it is, federal intervention in certain areas. Okay, so just give you guys something to think. Conflict with the 10th Amendment, of course. The task force recommendations don't include wide-scale systemic upheaval, a single-payer healthcare system, much as a Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, which we all know is a sham, overhauling environmental policy, and doing away with immigration and customs enforcement are not among the political policy proposals. But while the recommendation hew more closely to priorities laid out by Biden during the primary, expanding the Affordable Care Act through a public option, they also include ambitious timelines for reaching certain environmental benchmarks, such as eliminating carbon pollution from power plants and achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions for new buildings. Yeah, so more federal funding, Green New Deal. Feds know best, right? Of course, expect them to weasel lobby in the state and local level too, okay? Just to prepare yourselves. As clearly evident upon reading the Democratic Party platform, and as President Trump noted in his acceptance speech, there has never been such a difference between two parties or individuals in ideology, philosophy, or vision than there is right now. While two major parties have always held differing positions regarding what degree the federal government should provide for the domestic needs of the people, differences that in the end and often difficult to discern given the similar votes cast on both sides of the aisle. A comparison of the two sets of policies in 2020 show them to be shockingly divergent. Where the Democratic platform to actually be implemented by the Harris-Biden ticket, the U.S. will surely face more violent domestic upheaval when that then even has been experienced recently during the response to COVID-19 and the BLM Antifa-led uprisings around the nation. If these documents truly reflect the foundational beliefs and values of Americans, and we really are this deeply divided, the ideological chasm between us is greater than ever, and we truly are a house divided. Let us hope the Democrats' campaign Rhetoric as incorporated in the platform simply reflected a temporary knee-jerk focus on hot-button issues in an attempt to churn up even outrage to result in blue votes. You know how I swear, as red or blue, prepare to get screwed, right? It is impossible in this limited space to include a thorough listing of the stunning number of programs and projects the Democratic platform proposes to implement in coming years. We encourage readers to review the documents firsthand. It is available online at UC Santa Barbara American Presidency Project, which offers the platforms of parties that receive electoral votes starting in 1840. And there's a website for that. Yeah, I should check it out as well. Interesting, good stuff here. It is www.presidency.ucsb.edu, which follows a high-level overview of the Democratic Party platform's main content areas, which the reader can compare and contrast with the Republican Party's 2020 resolution regarding the Republican Party platform and its 2016 platform. Summary goal: massively advanced the nanny state. Upon reading the nearly 100-page platform, one could accurately summarize the Democratic Party's overreaching principles and values. Thus, it is the federal government's responsibility to fund new and vastly increased programs throughout the nation to be led by greatly expanded federal agency to ensure that all Americans, but especially those in non-majority populations, will be housed, fed, educated, provided health care and child care, and financially supported via services of the state. Because the systemic discrimination, oppression, and lack of access to resources is an inherited shortcoming of our democracy, so that Americans cannot provide basic necessities of life for themselves and their families. The party must right the wrongs in our democracy and redress the systemic injustices that have long plagued our society. So they're saying we feel sorry for certain people, so we should take care. The government's going to take care of them. Can we say enslavement 101? Absolutely. They don't want you to achieve goals. You want to be dumb, stagnant, and happy. Go, I'm satisfied. I don't have to do anything. Stuff has been handed to me. All right, just to give you folks a heart, an advance notice. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be, like some folks, they gotta need help, but they have to do it, take the initiative on doing it themselves. Then the help can be provided. All right, I'm not saying about many areas, because I could say this. There's a homeless court they have in the city of Fort Lauderdale, and the folks can take the initiative. And of course, you got community-funded, private, non-for-profit organizations trying to give these people a hand. And many of them try to get help, or they get turned in. They can they're not going to jail, but they want to say, "What can we do for you?" And you know what? It's admirable. I cannot condemn what they're doing, and the judges, everything's like trial and error. I should go in, check out, see what they have. It is pretty cool. So I always admire that. But the folks over there, the ones who are the defendants or the accused, if they want help, they got to do it. They got to say, I need help. I'm responsible for my actions. Can't make excuses. Got to conquer your demons. And I know I digress. Given the number of mentions in the document, the Democrats assert the systemic injustices add primarily to women of color, family of color, and communities of color, referenced 48 times, LGBTQ plus individuals 26 times, transgender people 9 times, especially black transgender women and non-binary persons. In fact, the Democratic Party is concerned enough about these particular Americans that as a part of its effort to eliminate racial, gender, and geographic health inequities, it will ensure that all gender and non-binary people can procure official government identification documents that accurately reflect their gender identity, fight to end violence against transgender Americans and particularly against black transgender women, and prioritize the investigation of hate crimes against transgenders and non-binary people. Okay, so if you're considered white, they may say you're white privilege, you don't count. Just saying, because it's possible. I'm not saying it can happen, but it's possible. COVID-19, the platform first addresses how the party will protect Americans and lead the nation in recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. It begins by repeatedly asserting that President Trump is directly responsible for the deaths and increased unemployment attributable to the virus. Blame game. Is everyone but you. Blame game. Try to find someone to screw. Blame game. Witch hunting is the only way to get advanced in life. That's how I'm just being, I love using parody here. So, yes, the witch hunting fetish. In fact, the opening 5 paragraphs of the first section, as in the case with numerous other sections, are dedicated solely to lambasting the president. Make no mistake, President Trump's abject failure to respond forcibly and capably to the COVID-19 pandemic, his failure to lead makes him responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans. President Trump's dereliction of duty has caused the tens of thousands of Americans the loss of tens of millions of American jobs and lasting harm to our children's education and future. How come the state of South Dakota refused to shut down? Something to think about. All right. As for what they'll do differently, heroically, Democrats will save lives by using every available tool to beat back this pandemic. They'll make testing free and expand funding to health departments to better conduct contact tracing. Orwellian indeed, right? In fact, they'll act swiftly to stand up a comprehensive national public health surveillance program for COVID-19 and future infectious diseases, recruiting at least 100,000 contact tracers to monitor their fellow Americans. 1984. The funding promises continue to expand health insurance coverage, provide direct increase in support to states, have the federal government to cover a higher percentage of the bill, add incentives for states to expand Medicaid, substantially increase funding for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, and health departments everywhere, and support medical and public health research grants for historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, and other minority-serving institutions. Don't worry about being vigilant on your health. We will take care of you. But you're going to get screwed in the rear when you are poor and pathetic. And you go, but we trust us. We'll take care of you. Always focus on your health, folks, when it comes to stuff like this. The economy. To prevent President Trump's recession from becoming a depression, Democrats believe we must act immediately to make ambitious investments that will support and create jobs. Bing! We urgently need to extend significant aid to state and local government, school districts, public and nonprofit colleges and universities, especially HBCUs and MSIs, providing funding for childcare and education, make significant immediate grants and loans to help small businesses, prioritizing support for black entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs of color, as well as women entrepreneurs, enact robust paid sick leave protections, increase public investment in 5G and broadband infrastructure to offer low-income Americans subsidies to access the internet. Okay, see that? Because remember, there's a lot of the scientists out there petitioning how dangerous 5G can be. Okay? This is their vision. COVID-19 will continue because there's a claim that 5G does affect the DNA in your systems, including that will deteriorate your health in the long term. So remember that. Do a little homework, folks. Like I said in the beginning, through forging a new social economic contract with the American people, Dems will raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour, support unions vigorously, protect all private sector workers' right to strike, and establish the federal government's role in promoting and facilitating collective bargaining, guaranteeing public sector employees the right to bargain. Well, remember this. You have the right to join a union. You have the right not to. You can't force people. If I recall, there was a U.S. Supreme Court case addressed that in 1947. U.S. Supreme Court case made that decision on you cannot force people to join unions. So, and of course, we have even on a state issue, when it comes to people like private sectors and all that, that would be 10th Amendment. I know many states have right to work laws or in their constitution. I know Florida and Arizona has it. But remember, if they discriminate you because you're a member of a labor organization in Florida, they're violating your right to work. It's like the time when the stagehand workers, including the house people, were locked out of the Kravitz Center around the year 2000 because they had a little dispute with the local business agent, local union's business agent. Locked them out. They violated their right to work under Article 1, Section 6 of the Florida Constitution. So it's good to know all sides of this. And trust me, because you can utilize it too. Counter it one way or the other. Not against unions, but anti-union folks as well. So that's how, and I use that a lot in my as a union stagehand, and I was a officer too, vice president at one time. And I just did it for one term because hey, I never try to make a career out of it. Got other things on my mind, but don't regret it one bit. Democrats will fund almost anything if it will create good union jobs, infrastructure, a clean energy revolution, a second-great railroad revolution for high-speed rail, and Amtrak, innovative water technologies for drinking water and safe wastewater systems, including replacing lead pipes, broadband 5G technology, innovation bulbs, hubs, career, technical education, and high-quality job training programs, adult literacy, and other skill development programs, state small business grant and leading initiatives, especially for small businesses owned by women and people of color, programs supporting businesses by women and people of color, and will ensure the USDA takes a more proactive approach to supporting training and resources for farmers of color. They'll make historic federal investments to create jobs across the country in aerospace, artificial intelligence, advanced materials, biotechnology, clean energy, and vehicles, support the U.S. role in space, and strengthen NASA and the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, observation missions to better understand how climate change is impacting our home planet. By this point, the readers may wonder how much more money Democrats can possibly plan to spend from the federal government, given the national deficit currently stands at about $26.5 trillion. See more on this page 20 on the issue of AFP. Don't worry, such spending opportunities continue for another 40 pages. So I'll say this, folks. Take the initiative, subscribe to these guys. Good stuff. Ending poverty. The party will make sure the wealthy pay their fair share in taxes while continuing to fund low-income American lives. The reform tax code to be more progressive and equitable, provide immediate marked relief for working families, expand access to credit by creating a public credit reporting agency, supporting the 10-20-30 funding approach, direct 10% of federal funding to communities where 20% or more the population have been living below the poverty line for 30 years or longer, raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, guarantee equal pay for women, increasing funds for assistance programs, increasing housing supplies, super change investments in the housing trust fund. So if the woman wants equal pay but don't want to do the same work, too bad. Because, hey, I don't mind women getting the same pay as long as they're capable of doing the same work. And that's to me, that's no big deal. But if you guys going to make it like a entitlement, it's not going to fly. It's going to backfire. Okay, it says here, increase funding for food assistance programs, increase housing. Okay, investment in house trust fund, make energy efficient upgrades for millions, provide Section 8 housing support for every eligible family, improve and upgrade public housing and expand availability, act swiftly to end homelessness among veterans, and enact strong protections for the LGBTQ plus youth, especially Black, Latino, and Native American LGBTQ plus youth, provide legal support to fight for wrongful convictions, vigorously enforce the Fair Housing Act, the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act, and affirmatively furthering the fair housing rule and the Desperate Impact Standard hold lenders accountable for discriminatory practices and the use of federal governments to enforce settlements against discriminatory lenders, combat gentrification, penalize predatory lending practices, and maintain home ownership. So, more federal intervention. How astute, right? I know too, like I said before, James Madison warned us about this in Federalist Papers 45 and 46, to be exact. Healthcare. When it comes to healthcare for Americans, while the platform falls short of demanding Medicare for all, as noted, numerous enhancements will be made to the Affordable Care Act, which is fascistic healthcare. It promises universal healthcare coverage, reduced prescription drug prices, premiums, and out-of-pocket costs, and reining in overall healthcare expenses, and tackling the deep-stated inequities in our healthcare system. The lowest income Americans will be automatically enrolled in the public option without premiums. They'll double investments in community health centers and rural health clinics, expand the National Health Service Corps, empower Medicare to negotiate prescriptions, drug prices, invest in training, and hiring more mental health providers, substance use disorder counselors, and peer support counselors, make medication-assisted treatment available to all who need it, support expanded access to mental health and substance to use order care in prisons, and for returning citizens, make investments in the Medicaid system to provide home and community-based services, extend ACA coverage to Dreamers, and lift the 5 years waiting period for Medicaid and children's health insurance programs eligible for low-income lawfully present immigrants, work equitably to improve maternal child services to at least half of our nation's high maternal mortality rate, invest in community health worker care forces, support increase in unsustainable funding for health and medical research and federal grants, and increase the federal investment in research and development for new medications through the NIH. So it's more feds know best. Democrats promise to restore non-discrimination protections in health insurance for LGBTQ people, guaranteeing they have full access for needed health care and resources, including by requiring that federal health plans provide coverage for HIV/AIDS treatment and HIV prevention medications, gender confirmation surgery, and hormone therapy. Wow. Like, insane, right? Reforming criminal justice. This hot button is only vaguely addressed in the platform, which does not include a call to defund police, as far-left activists demand. It states Democrats believe we need to overhaul the criminal justice system from top to bottom, and includes a plan to reimagine public safety. For instance, it reasonably recommends every school should have sufficient funding to employ guidance counselors, social workers, or school psychologists to help guarantee age-appropriate or racially equitable student disciplinary practices, rather than turning to police to resolve these issues, and suggests looking to innovate police departments to have enacted base reforms to change their approach through training, implementing, and strong standards governing conflict resolution, de-escalation, and the use of force. Of course, the Dems want to ensure the federal government take charge by establishing a strict national standards governing the use of force. More overreach. This platform claims it's past time to end the failed war on drugs, which has imprisoned millions of Americans, disproportionately people of color, and hasn't been effective in reducing drug use. The hypocrisy of this otherwise reasonable position has become a sticking point even for many Democrats, who will point to Vice Presidential nominee Kamala Harris's record in California. Over Harris's 7 years as a top prosecutor in California, her attorneys won 1,956 misdemeanors and felony convictions for marijuana possession, cultivation, or sale, according to the data from the DA's office reported to Mercury News. She also actively opposed cannabis legalization as a California state senator. Why? Because she's a tyrannical demonad. Joe Biden's long-standing record support for tough-on-crime laws is also unassailable. He authored what he called the Biden Crime Law, the 1994 Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, signed by then President Clinton, which is widely regarded as being directly responsible for the explosion in incarceration, especially for drug-related charges, because it supercharged the war on drugs and incentivized states to build new prisons, hire more law enforcement personnel in an attempt by the Democrats to be perceived as tougher on crime. Interesting about that bill is that the states gotta want these grants, they have to apply for it, petition it. All right, this is a control freak, what Joe Biden is. All right, so worst president ever. Hey, how about worst senator ever? Another tyrannical douchebag. To reverse their failed policies, Democrats now suggest that rather than involving the criminal justice system, increase the use of drug courts, harm reduction interventions, and treatment diversion programs should be used, as they acknowledge that substance use disorders are diseases, not crimes. Democrats believe no one should be in prison solely because they use drugs. Democrats will decriminalize marijuana use and reschedule it through executive action on the federal level. To accomplish this, they will increase funding for public defenders and the Legal Services Corporation and allow judges to determine appropriate sentences. By fighting to repeal federal mandatory minimums, incentivize states to do the same, and make all sentencing reductions retroactive so judges can reconsider the past cases where their hands were tied. And I always say this, folks, jury nullification is an awesome thing. In the platform's sole reference to the 10th Amendment back states' rights, they wish to allow states to make their own decisions about recreational use of cannabis. The Justice Department should not launch federal prosecutions of conduct that is legal at the state level, and in a single move that would open the doors to housing, educational funding, and employment for millions of Americans without a need of any new federally funded programs. He wisely suggests all past criminal convictions for cannabis use should be automatically expunged. Sounds like a potential bribe, right? Healing our national soul. Democrats again kick off their plan to heal the soul of America by playing the blame game. President Trump's words and actions have given safe harbor and encouragement to bigots, anti-Semites, Islamophobes, and white supremacists. It is time to rule out domestic terrorism in all forms and pass a domestic terrorism law that is consistent with the constitutional right to free speech and civil liberties. Given later statements, it seems doubtful this law will crack down on far-left terrorists. To combat domestic terrorists, Democrats will increase funding and support for security investments and protections at houses of worship, confront white nationalist terrorism, and combat hate crimes perpetrated by religious minorities, and work to restore trust with our Muslim communities. Good grief, more and more. It's like they like flip-flopping a lot of these clowns, right? Additionally, Democrats recognize that the threat landscape has evolved dramatically since September 11th. Our counterterrorism priorities, footprint, and tools should shift accordingly, including to respond to growing threat from white supremacists and other right-wing terrorist groups. Perhaps as expected, they support the removing the Confederate battle flag and Confederate leaders from public properties. Yep. Study history, folks. It's a sham what they're doing. Oddly, they suggest the Federal Reserve should address the disproportionately high employment rates among people of color through making racial equity part of the mandate of the Federal Reserve, and will direct the chair of the Federal Reserve to report on the extent of racial employment and wage gaps and how the central bank is countering them. Totally illegal, null and void Federal Reserve. Karl Marx loved central banking. Just read the Communist Manifesto. Of course, they suggest affirmative action should be re-implemented to benefit all but non-veteran white men. We will restore and build on the Obama-Biden administration's fair pay, safe workplace policies and the purchasing power of the federal government to incentivize private companies to recruit and advance people of color, women, people with disabilities, and veterans. Apparently, unfettered access to abortion is part of what needs to heal our souls. Democrats believe every woman should be able to access high-quality reproductive healthcare services, including a safe and legal abortion. We oppose and will fight to overturn the federal and state laws that carry barriers to women's reproductive health and rights, including by repealing the Hyde Amendment and protecting and codifying Roe v. Wade. When it comes to the Second Amendment, sweeping changes are suggested: enact universal background checks, end online sales of guns and ammunition, close dangerous loopholes that currently allow stalkers, some individuals convicted of assault or battery, to buy and possess firearms, and actively fund the federal background check system, close the Charleston loophole, and prevent individuals who have been convicted of hate crimes from possessing firearms, ban the manufacture and sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, incentive state to enact licensing requirements for owning firearms, and the red flag laws, pass legislation that requires that guns be safely stored in homes, hold companies responsible for their products, and prioritize repealing the law that shield gun manufacturers from civil liability. Double standard. Hey, see, they like to codify Roe v. Wade for their own convenience. I'm not, fond of abortion as a whole, overall. Okay, I'll correct myself, overall. I'm not too crazy about it. But if you read it, it focuses on the right of privacy, including the woman's right to choose. So they want your license and all that. They're contradicting Roe versus Wade. It's good to throw that back at them. They go, bah! Then they become banshees in heat. On a positive note, Democrats are concerned about potentially harmful effects of corporate consolidation in the media industry and will allegedly reinstate and strengthen media ownership rules and direct federal antitrust agencies to investigate the economic impacts of mergers in the media industry, but they insist on globalizing efforts by appointing an independent media professional to head the U.S. agencies for global media to ensure that the news and information projected around the world by the federal government meets the highest standard of fact-based and unbiased journalism. Who will determine these standards and what constitutes factual material without bias? Yep, anti-freedom of the press and free speech. Oh yeah, but what's convenient for them is called exceptionalism or the Puritan ideology. Liberty for me, but none for thee. Saving our democracy. When we became a democracy in our Constitution? Never. Many will note another hypocritical overtone on how Democrats intend to save our democracy, which we will strictly enforce ethic laws and improve transparency across the federal government in order to rebuild trust with the American people, and will protect civil servants and whistleblowers from political retribution. Well, they didn't work in the Obama administration when it comes to whistleblowers, right? They'll protect every individual's voting rights, reform broken campaign finance laws, finance system, build an effective, transparent federal government, assumingly via massive funding increases, make Washington, D.C. the 51st state, and guarantee self-determination for Puerto Rico, support U.S. territories, fight privatization of the U.S. Postal Service, and be part by allowing the USPS to deliver alcohol by mail, and developing banking facilities within post offices. Good grief, yeah. Yep, more propaganda, right? Immigration. Democrats commit to building a 21st century immigration system that reflects our values, repairs past harms, heal our communities, rebuild our economies, and renew our global leadership. We will start by righting the wrongs of the Trump administration. They'll halt building of the southern border wall, will terminate travel and immigration bans, reinstate, expand, and streamline protections for dreamers and the parents of American citizens' children, protect and expand the existing asylum system, halt enforcement of and rescind the American immigrant wealth test, develop a fast track to immigration program, eliminate immigration barriers such as 3 to 10 year bars, and remove the 10-year waiting period for waivers and workplace and community rates, invest in community-based alternatives to detention, and end profit detention centers, and the freeze on green cards for new immigrants, increasing funding for inclusion and citizenship services, legal support, English classes and bilingual education, workforce development, and adult education. Okay, so certain things that I can say this, based on what was being addressed here, they're going for the club of their own platform, instantaneously. Fast track. Boom! Remember, they don't want to have it all in uniform. Just make it quick. like Amazon, Amazon.com, Amazon version of immigration. And don't get me wrong, there's some awesome people from other countries. They love it here, and they earn their merits. They don't even rely on the government, so doesn't matter what they look like. But hey, keep it fair, all right? Want the productive, not the weak and pathetic. I say that ethically. So not just with them, but that particular people, but domestic as well. So I'm ranting. Sorry about that. Education here, again, the Democrats will offer all things to all people. Free pre-K for all 3 and 4-year-olds. Expand Head Start and Early Head Start. Increase funding to states to guarantee that families can afford childcare. Make major investments to increase quality. Triple Title I funding, which benefits schools that serve low-income students. Expand universal free school meal programs. Support wraparound healthcare and nutrition services. Before and after school programs, adult education classes, and other services. Increase investment in public schools. Ban for-profit private charter businesses from receiving federal funding. Oppose private school vouchers. Revigorate and increase the funding for the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights. Make public colleges and universities tuition free for students whose families earn less than $125, roughly 8% of Americans. Double the maximum Pell Grant award and double federal support for TRIO programs, supporting community colleges tuition free for all students, including Dreamers. Yep. Piss the money away again. Big spending. That's what they want. And you know what's funny about these things here? About tuition-free college and free education? You know what? The internet will teach you a lot more than what the federal government, Department of Education, wants you to know. And the whole Common Core garbage, which I'm glad certain states and counties in Florida in general are saying no to it. And it's just absurd. All right. Our military. Ensure that our military has no peer. Dems will responsibly end the forever wars to end the support of the Saudi-led war in Yemen, invest in technology and forces to accelerate defense transformation, reinforce alliances and partnerships that enhance our collective security, rebalance our investment, improve the efficiency and competitiveness of our defense industrial base, conduct rigorous annual audits of the Pentagon, and end waste and fraud. Will allow anyone to serve in combat roles in the reverse gender ban, fight rape and sexual harassment and retaliation and impunity, take care of survivors, modernize VA healthcare, treat veteran suicide as a public health crisis, and its increasing mental health and suicide prevention program. Well, you could thank some of their leaders in that party. Attack on Libya, funding the Yemen war, even during the Obama administration. How come he didn't go after? How come he didn't call him out on it? Because he's our friend. Could proceed here. Fighting the climate crisis. Climate change is a global emergency. We have no time to waste in taking action. We'll use resources and authorities across all agencies. We will join the Paris Climate Agreement and on day one seek ambition from nations around the world, putting the United States back in a position of global leadership where we belong. Foreign influences, right? John Jay warned us about that. As leaders of all things global, U.S. Democrats want to drive a coordinated global health and economic response to the COVID-19 pandemic and contribute not just more aid, but better aid. They intend to revitalize American diplomacy, reinvent alliances, partnerships, and international institutions, invest in State Department reforms, expand and reform Foreign Service, rejoin and reform the WHO, the UN Human Rights Council, and the UN Population Fund, ensure the U.S. agencies for International Development, or USAID, or USAID, reclaim this position as world's premier development agency, reaffirm America's commitment to the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, provide the budgetary support and statutory authorities necessary to make sure our aid institutions, including the new U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, are successfully integrated into broader international and private sector development efforts, lead international efforts to help developing countries. At home, the party will eliminate carbon pollution from power plants by 2035, dramatically expand solar and wind energy deployment within 5 years, install 500 million solar panels and 60,000 wind turbines, build a modern electrical grid, make energy-saving upgrades to up to 2 million low-income households and affordable and public housing units within 5 years, increase funding for programs that enable energy efficiency improvements for low-income families, transition the entire fleet of 500,000 school buses and 3 million governmental vehicles to zero-emissions vehicles, invest in modernizing our freight infrastructure, applying a carbon adjustment fee at the border to products from countries that fail to live up their commitments under the Paris Climate Agreement, partner with farmers to make the American agricultural sector in the first in the world to achieve net zero emissions, substantially increase investments in voluntary conservation programs, and create an environmental justice fund to make historic investments aimed at eliminating legacy pollution and support most historically far-reaching public investments and private sector incentives for research, development, demonstration, and deployment of next-generation technologies. All right, so this is what they want you to do. They will fully integrate climate change into foreign policy and national security strategies and incorporate climate issues as key priorities at the Department of State, Department of Defense, the intelligence community, the Peace Corps, and USAID convene a world summit aimed at new and more ambitious global targets to reduce carbon pollution, revive and expand climate-related foreign assistance, including by recommitting to the Green Climate Fund. Good grief. Restoring funding to the Global Environment Facility and an intergovernmental panel on climate change, revitalize and expand the global health security agenda, restore the U.S. National Security Council Directorate for Global Health Security and Biodefense, develop a global public health system, establish a global health emergency board to harmonize crisis response, ensure the U.S. remains a leading funder and technical partner of the WHO. In short, the Democratic platform is based on a fairy tale world filled with promises that, if fulfilled, would bankrupt America, make life for the overwhelming majority of middle-class Americans no better, and expand even more the government's role in our lives. Can we say New World Order 101? Absolutely. And of course, unsustainable debt will soar. Okay? And it's all a form of utopia. So, I'm going to leave them right there. And of course, Democratic Dream Government expand to cartoonize size. It tells you what they want to size. Department of Labor, Justice, Agriculture, Education, Veterans Affairs, Equality Employment Opportunity Commission, NOAA, House Trusting Fund, CDC, Health Departments throughout the nation, National Health Center Corps, Medicare, Medicaid, Legal Service Corporations, Public Defenders, Office of Civil Rights, USAID, U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, White House National Security Council, Decorated for Global Health Security and Biodefense, Intelligence Agencies, Peace Corps, federal resources and authorities across all agencies, fighting for climate change, creation of a new public credit reporting agency. So you can read the rest of that, just give you a whole rundown, what they want. But it's political corruption at its finest, pissing our money away. And I know it's been pretty damn long on this, my little commentary here. But one of the areas you always got to look at is Keo Bono, who benefits. It won't be low income, middle class. It will be the bureaucrats, the tyrants, the sons of bitches will manifest on this. This is why even a person like myself is very anti one world order. It was global order written all over it. Come on, folks. If you still buy that blame one man for everything, then you're obtuse. That would be the great word. This is very treacherous for all of humanity. I'm going to do one more here, even though I know I'm in there almost close to an hour. But this one should be final. Excuse me here. And it's from the Epoch Times. Today, it's by Isabel Bergman. Brueggen. It says here, 2019 nationwide violent crime rate fell. New FBI data shows. And as it reads here, violent crime across the United States declined in 2019 for a third consecutive year. FBI data released on September 28th shows. FBI on Monday released a report that found that violent crime across the country dropped by approximately 0.5% last year compared to 2018, making the third year violent crime, which includes murder and negligent manslaughter, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, decline in the United States. The U.S. Enforcement Agency also found that the property crime rate decreased 4.1% from the year prior, marking 17 consecutive years of decline, with an estimate 2,109.9 offenses per 100,000 people. According to FBI data, an estimate 1,203,808 violent crimes were committed nationwide last year, with a violent crime rate approximately 366.7 violent crimes per 100,000 inhabitants. Robbery and rape offenses fell 4.7 and 2.7 last year, respectively. Compared to 2018, the law enforcement agency said from types of violent crimes did see a rise. Aggravated assault rose 1.3%, and murder and non-negligent manslaughter offenses rose by 0.3%. For the last 3 years, the Department of Justice has worked tirelessly with our federal, state, and local and tribal partners to pursue those violent criminals, cartels, and gangs who seek harm to our communities. Attorney General Jeffrey A. Rosen said in a statement in response to the data, "We are steadfast in our commitment to protect the public safety of citizens and communities across the United States, through violent crime initiatives like Project Safe Neighborhoods, Project Guardian, and most recently, Operation Legend," he added. Violent crime rates have been increasing during 2015 to 2016, so I'm proud of the hard work by all prosecutors and law enforcement agents across the nation who have reduced violent crime rates during each of the last 3 years. I look forward to continuing our joint effort to protect the American public from violence of criminals. I am encouraged by the great work being done by law enforcement to combat violent crime across the nation. FBI Director Stephen Bowditch said, "The FBI continues to make clear that violence will not be tolerated, and we are committed to continuing our work with the state, local, and tribal partners across the country to confront and deter violence, dismantle criminal organizations and gangs, eradicate drug trafficking, and bring justice to victims." Well, like I say, end the drug war, then their stocks will plummet. FBI data was complied using figures from law enforcement agencies taking part in Uniform Crime Reporting UCR program voluntarily. The law enforcement agency said that 16,554 of 18,667 eligible federal, state, county, and university and college and tribal agencies submitted data. Earlier this month, the Department of Justice released crime statistics that showed that violent crime rates across the country, including simple assaults, dropped by 15% in 2019 compared to the previous years. The results found that from 2018 to 2019, the rate of violent crime, not including homicides, fell from 8.6% to 7.3% victimizations per 1,000 people aged 12 years and above. This fall is partly driven by a decline in rape or sexual assault victimization, which fell from 2.7 per 1,000 persons aged 12 or older in 2018 to 1.7 per 1,000 in 2019, the department said. Interesting there. It's pretty cool. For women, the fall was more significant, dropping by 27% from 2018 to 2019. The data was collected for the National Crime Victimization Survey, the nation's largest crime survey collected annually, which asks about 160,000 individuals whether they are victims of crime, regardless of whether the crime has been reported to the police. The President Trump administration has been taking a hard stance against crime. Since 2017, his administration have ramped up federal law enforcement in areas of immigration, human trafficking, drug trafficking, and firearm offenses. And you can thank a lot of the states and using giving them more their right to self-defense, their family, friends, loved ones, and themselves. And I could say more providing, so having them implement more natural laws, natural rights in these areas. Of course, crime is always going to be an issue. It's always going to be a roller coaster ride. We might expect this crime to be higher, violent crime to be higher after this year is done. And we may just call it insurrection, so they may just separate that. I don't know. But it's always been interesting. It's a good thing because, well, one thing we got to learn too, folks. I don't know that everyone's in this particular institution, law enforcement institution, whether it's federal, state, or local, are doing their best to protect rights and protect the rights of people, try to make sure their communities are safe or peaceful as possible. And, of course, you have, your rogue elements in there as well. Nothing new. You always have to be aware of that. And people got to learn, too, technically the police aren't obligated on protecting an individual. Sovereign immunity and tort liability. They got it in the federal and state laws. You can look it up. It's not that hard to find. But now, what's going on? Possible coup. It may not be just regular crime. It may be war crimes. So, always got to, just be ready, be vigilant, and know the drill. We all have those responsibilities. That's what self-determination is about. But I like it. It's positive news on that area. And that would be it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or there's something that's interesting I want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Decorum. Furthermore, I will leave the articles, these 2 articles on my Spreaker page. And if you want to do a donation, you can hit me at paypal.me/LookYouLuck3. Support Epoch Times, American Free Press, and anyone else, because war on the press, man, is a big thing right now. They want you to watch the idiot box. And look what the Democrats want to do. They're just an example of tyrants in that party. Just like the Republicans. So I get them all equally. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.